I'm sure we all know at least one of these people who are simply kind-hearted. Exactly what you would call a good soul. Someone who tries to be the person you might wish for yourself in your life. Actually, that's exactly the right way to go through life. If everyone were like that, the world would certainly be a better place. It is all the more sad when such kindness is taken advantage of, and when it encounters absolute evil. Julie Reilly's life has changed dramatically in recent years. In 2016, at the age of 45, she suffered hypoxic brain damage. This type of damage occurs after severe oxygen deprivation, for example, as a result of a heart attack or cardiac arrest. It is not known exactly what happened to Julie. However, it is known that she has a history of drug use. Her hypoxia could well be related to this. Julie survived the ordeal relatively unscathed, but not without damage. She has to spend 5 months in hospital for treatment in 2016. And of course, the serious health blow has left its mark. After her brain injury, she has significant memory problems, and she now takes much longer to do some things. Her reactions are now slower, and speaking is also more difficult now. Julie can still live independently and do things she enjoys, but of course she is now limited and needs significantly more emotional and practical support in her everyday life. Everything is different. Nevertheless, Julie does not let this stroke of fate get her down. On the contrary, for her, it seems to be a reason to radically change her life. She had already been through a lot before her illness. Among other things, her first daughter fell ill and died when she was still a toddler. This naturally had a profound effect on her and could also explain why Julie turned to drugs. This, in turn, affected her relationship with her other children. Her other daughter spent most of her childhood with Julie's mother. Even now that her daughter is an adult and a mother herself, the relationship between her and Julie remains strained. That's only logical. But as I said, after Julie's health problems, she wants to try to be there for her family. She can't undo the past, but she can try to be there for her daughter now. And that's working out quite well. She sees her daughter and her little grandson regularly and feels very comfortable in her role as a grandmother. Her contact with her own mother and sister is also becoming more stable. However, Julie's independence is particularly important to her, regardless of her health limitations. That's why she continues to live in her own apartment after being discharged from the hospital. It's located on Shield Hall Road in Govan, a district of Glasgow in Scotland. The apartment is small but cozy. Julie has everything she needs nearby and is quite mobile thanks to a nearby bus stop. In 2017, everything seems to be going well. But at the beginning of 2018, Julie disappears. On August 6th, the now 47-year-old uses her bus pass for the last time. After that, her trail goes cold. When she fails to show up for a doctor's appointment, the practice calls Julie's mother, who is listed as her emergency contact. But Julie's mother has not heard from her for a long time either. So they go to the police to report her missing. The disappearance of the 47-year-old is taken very seriously right away. After all, she is in a vulnerable situation due to her health condition. The first theory is that Julie may be confused and unable to find her way home. So, Glasgow Govan is searched with sniffer dogs, helicopters, and search teams. Unfortunately, all to no avail. At first, this even gives Julie's family hope. After all, if there is no trace of her outside, then that means she must be somewhere inside. Perhaps in a house where it is warm and safe. Maybe Julie is really just confused and has found shelter somewhere. Sure, that would still be bad, but it's better than the worst-case scenarios that are always in the back of their minds. Due to her illness, Julie has regular doctor and counseling appointments. She always keeps to them meticulously. She always notes down exactly when she has to be where and what she is advised or prescribed at her appointments in her little black diary. For Julie, this diary is even more important than the appointment calendar is for most of us. While many of us are lucky enough to be able to keep appointments in mind, that was simply no longer possible for Julie. You could say she was dependent on her diary. This makes it all the more worrying when Julie fails to show up for appointments without excuse. Later, the diary is found in her apartment. This is obviously not a good sign. As weeks go by without Julie being found, further findings give cause for concern. The police are able to secure recordings from February 6, 2018, from surveillance cameras in various stores. This is how they know that Julie was shopping at an Aldi store that day. The Aldi is about 2 kilometers from Julie's apartment. It would take her about 11 minutes to get there by bus. However, Julie is not alone when she goes shopping. In December 2017, 2 months before Julie's disappearance, Julie and her mother had a heated argument. At that time, Julie told her mother on the phone that she now had a subtenant. She had been friends with the man for some time. Now, he had broken up with his girlfriend and was looking for a new apartment. The two of them decided that he could stay with Julie until he found a place. In return, he could take care of Julie. Due to her health limitations, she could use some help in her everyday life, with housework, taking medication, doctor's appointments. At first glance, this actually sounds like a pretty good arrangement. But Julie's mother had a bad feeling about it from the start. She told Julie this on the phone. She knew that the 47-year-old had cognitive problems. On top of that, she thought Julie was too gullible. It seemed as if Julie, after her stroke of bad luck, now simply wanted to see the best in people. Of course, she was concerned that Julie, as a mother, had not always fulfilled her obligations. Perhaps she simply wanted to make up for the love she had been unable to give for so long. Julie's mother warned her on the phone that the man probably just wanted to take advantage of her. But Julie disagreed. Her friend, Andrew Wallace, is a sincere guy. The trained butcher is definitely trustworthy. With this difference of opinion, mother and daughter part ways. A few weeks later, Julie disappears. The last sign of life from her is this surveillance camera footage from the Aldi supermarket. The man shopping with her there is her roommate, Andrew. When the police hear about him, they naturally want to talk to him, especially after Julie's apartment is forensically examined. At first glance, everything looks normal. There is the typical everyday chaos, but nothing else unusual. But that's only at first glance. Upon closer forensic examination, several tiny blood stains are found. They are not all in one place, but scattered around. So it could be that they are simply old blood stains from everyday life that were not cleaned up properly. Because the traces look smeared. Maybe an accident while cutting fruit here, a sharp piece of paper on her fingertip there, things like that. But there are also blood stains in the drum of Julie's washing machine. Of course, this fuels a terrible suspicion on the part of the police, which you probably already have as well, especially when you take a closer look at the camera footage from the Aldi store and other supermarkets. On February 14th, Julie's roommate Andrew used her bank card to shop at an Asda supermarket. Later, he did the same thing again at the Aldi store where he was with Julie on the day she disappeared. In a way, the fact that Andrew Wallace used Julie's bank card now even gives the police an advantage. They can arrest him and put him in pre-trial detention for the time being. This gives the police valuable time to take a closer look at Julie's roommate, and to take another closer look at the apartment. During a second search, they actually find more blood, which does not bode well. A fairly large blood stain comes to light. It had been wiped away as best as possible and then covered with a rug. But during this second forensic examination, the stain can be made visible. There was so much blood that it seeped deep into the wooden floor of Julie's apartment. When the whole thing is examined with luminol, the terrible extent of the crime becomes clear. Entire footprints can be seen. And for these to be visible, the amount of blood must have been enormous. It is now sadly obvious that she is no longer alive. But where is Julie? What did the murderer do with her body? An important clue is provided by a witness who comes forward to the police after a search appeal. He is a friend of Andrew's. During his visit, Andrew not only behaved strangely, but also had a large suitcase with him. When asked, Andrew claimed that it contained a dead deer. He said he had accidentally run it over with his car and then put it in the suitcase. Now he was planning to sell the meat at a butcher's shop. The friend did not report this to the police at first. Perhaps he believed Andrew. But that would be strange, because a week earlier, Andrew had apparently told him that he had to get rid of a dead body. These words show parallels to Andrew's digital data. Andrew used his cell phone to Google how to quickly kill someone with a knife. He also searched the Play Store for an anti-tracking app. Numerous photos of hunting knives, some with blood on them, were found on his hard drive, and a photo showing bones being cut through. The police put two and two together and launch a major search for abandoned suitcases throughout Glasgow. They fear that Andrew may have stored Julie's body in them, or parts of it, because there was an unusually large amount of blood in the apartment for a suspected murder. And Andrew was a butcher. Unfortunately, all of this suggests that only parts of Julie may be found. The police are following up on numerous tips about suitcases that have been found. Officers are constantly being called out to cordon off locations and open suitcases that have been found, always with the fear that Julie's remains might be inside. But although there are well over 20 different tips, none of the suitcases contain human remains. Meanwhile, Andrew is also being interrogated. From the outset, they take an aggressive approach, letting him know that they believe he murdered Julie in order to put pressure on him. But Andrew responds to each of the numerous questions with the same two words: no comment. Andrew is arrested a second time, this time on suspicion of murder. Meanwhile, the search for Julie's remains continues. It is April 19th, 2018, and Julie has been missing for more than 2 months. Andrew Wallace is still in custody, but apart from no comment, he has still not said anything. Of course, people are still worried about 47-year-old Julie and are searching for her. But despite everything, everyday life must go on somehow. This is also the case in the area where Julie lived until her disappearance. With April comes spring weather. One of the residents takes advantage of the first rays of sunshine to get his garden ready for spring. He is probably not thinking about the missing woman from the neighboring street this morning, until he discovers something completely different instead of weeds. Namely, a bone with meat residue on it that does not look like it came from an animal. The police determine that it is a thigh bone. Forensic tests confirm that it belongs to Julie Reilly. This confirms what has been feared for 2 months. 47-year-old Julie is no longer alive, and Andrew has dismembered her body. He has apparently disposed of the remains in different locations. Another part of Julie's leg is found in another garden. However, other parts of her body remain missing. Nevertheless, it has now been proven beyond any doubt that Julie Reilly is no longer alive. And so Andrew Wallace can now be charged with her murder. This is not the first time that the now 41-year-old has been in court. He was first charged and convicted in 1992 at the age of 15, also for murder. It was only with the new charges in 2018 that it came to light that Julie's supposedly nice roommate was a convicted murderer. He had killed a woman named Caroline Packer. The exact circumstances are not known. Because of his young age, Andrew received only a minor sentence and was given a second chance. He clearly hadn't taken advantage of it. Because on February 4th, 2019, he will once again be sitting in the dock. Almost exactly 1 year to the day after Julie Reilly's disappearance. Even though many of her body parts are still missing and there is no forensic evidence, the circumstantial evidence is clear. Julie's family is nevertheless anxious about the trial. Andrew continues to remain silent. He has not revealed where Julie's other remains are. The family is concerned that the evidence may be too thin and that Andrew Wallace may ultimately be acquitted. But surprisingly, everything happens very quickly. In court, Andrew Wallace confesses to Julie's murder. He does not reveal why he killed the 47-year-old, but that is of secondary importance to Julie's relatives anyway. Any explanation Andrew might give would be incomprehensible and hypocritical to them. Her family knew Julie and knew how kind-hearted she was. She would have done anything for anyone. There simply could not have been a motive to kill her. Instead, they see Andrew Wallace as a malicious person who needed no reason, no trigger, and no motive to commit this terrible crime. The 41-year-old is sentenced by a court to a minimum of 28 years in prison. After the verdict, Julie's family formally begs the murderer to reveal where the rest of Julie's remains are. The relatives are desperate to give her a dignified farewell. They have to wait a few weeks after the verdict, but in March 2019, the time has come. Andrew Wallace tells the police where the missing suitcase is. During the 2018 investigation, the police had worked with a street grid to narrow down the search radius. In fact, the suitcase had been just one street outside the grid the whole time. When forensic experts arrive on March 6, 2019, the site is challenging even for experienced investigators. In a suitcase in an overgrown corner of a house, they find Julie's torso and head. The investigators drove directly from the site of the discovery to Julie's mother and sister to break the news to them. When the lead investigator said that the remains were now together, Julie's sister threw her arms around him and cried. She repeated one sentence over and over again. "She's home again." That brings us to the end of today's video. Feel free to write your thoughts in the comments. I can imagine that many of you are as shocked as I am, especially by the fact that Andrew Wallace never revealed a motive. No one deserves to be taken from life in such a cruel way. And the fact that it happened to Julie just as she was getting her life back on track makes it all the more tragic. Julie's family participated in a BBC documentary about the case, which follows the investigation from start to finish. After the documentary aired, the family received many letters from viewers, which helps them greatly in coming to terms with Julie's death. Feel free to write your thoughts on this case in the comments. By doing so, you'll also be supporting the channel. Other than that, there's not much more to say. I wish you a good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're watching the video, and hope to see you again in the next video. Until then, bye everyone.